Hi, this is Heidi Dupree, and I would like to read to you the preface from my award-winning book, Awaken Your Greater Health, How Energy Medicine Opens the Way to Healing. A peculiar parable. Once upon a time, there was a great and powerful king who was wise, all-knowing, generous, and kind. But a childish and tyrannical peasant locked him in a dungeon and took over the kingdom. He had all pictures of the king and any evidence of his existence destroyed, and declared that no one was allowed to speak of him again. When the peasant felt sad, he banned all celebrations in the kingdom, outlawed expressions of happiness, and demanded that everyone wear black. When the peasant became angry, he declared war on neighboring villages, who in turn waged war against the kingdom. He would react to the slightest of insults, locking up anyone who dared to question him. The peasant monitored every movement within the kingdom and every word uttered by the villagers, suppressing any sign of rebellion. He could not afford for any of the villagers to remember their source of power and freedom, their king, for the peasant lived in fear of losing control over the kingdom. Eventually, all the buildings in the kingdom were damaged by war, and as time passed, the people became worn down from the constant threats to their well-being. Stress and poverty ravaged the population. They trudged through each day with heavy hearts, feeling more and more ill. The never-ending demands and whims of the peasant had depleted the material resources of the kingdom and the spirit of its people as well. The final blow came when ongoing conflict prompted neighboring villages to impose total trade prohibitions within the kingdom. With all incoming flow of resources into the kingdom effectively blocked and the coffers emptied, the people were plunged into hopelessness and despair. But they felt powerless to stop the peasant. In fact, they had no idea that changing the situation was even possible. And the once great and powerful king had long been completely forgotten, exactly as the peasant had intended. Does this parable sound strange to you? Unfortunately, it's a picture of the energy dynamics of how we really live. The littlest, most fearful and controlling aspect of ourselves is usually in charge of parts, if not all, of our lives. Our inner kingdom. And the wise and all-knowing aspect of ourselves is forgotten. We expend our resources and emotional capital while being blocked from the greater source of health and total life prosperity, ending up sick, unhappy, and depleted. It doesn't have to be this way. I've written this book to help you create a fulfilling, healthy, and prosperous life. I will show you how to rediscover who you really are and guide you in shifting from surviving to thriving. Are you experiencing the trend? The world is now demanding that we change, and fast. Seth Godin. There is an increase in consciousness in all areas of our culture, and that trend is accelerating. People from all walks of life are awakening to their higher purpose and an urge to make a difference in the world. By awakening, I mean that wisdom that we already have, but is just below the surface of our conscious awareness, becomes suddenly obvious. The awakened aspire to solve social and environmental problems, bring healing and knowledge to others, and be a part of something that really matters. As we awaken, we can feel restless, isolated, disoriented, frightened, sensitive, and detached from our physical body. During this awakening process, we can experience periods of loss, sadness, upheaval, and increased awareness of our intuition. Although wave after wave of people are awakening, they can be ineffective because they are approaching their newly awakened life through the wounds of the past. They are applying old energy to new situations and discovering it doesn't work. More and more individuals want to be a positive and helpful presence in their relationships, their careers, and in the world, but they don't know how to effectively do so. To have a passion to make a difference in the world, but not have the information and tools to effectively manifest that passion in life can be heartbreaking. My own heart-wrenching experience is part of what prompted me to write this book. At the same time that segments of the population are experiencing an increase in consciousness and spiritual awareness, there is a counter-movement of those who are experiencing an increase in fear and resistance. As relationships break apart, jobs are lost, health deteriorates, and violence grows, the population is becoming divided between those who are embracing these life events as catalysts for growth and increased consciousness, and those in whom these changes have sparked intensifying fear and resistance. This polarization is happening in every aspect of our culture and within each of us. We all have a choice to become more willing, courageous, generous, and loving, or to become more fearful, reactive, rigid, and resistant. Although we are always acceptable no matter what we choose, to experience greater health, we must leave the energy of force, anger, fear, apathy, guilt, and shame behind. The journey continues. When my first published book, The Other Medicine That Really Works, How Energy Medicine Can Help You Heal in Body, Mind, and Spirit, was released, I began to hear from readers how it changed their lives. They shared with me their powerful healing responses just from reading it, and their aha moments when recognizing themselves and their issues in the healing stories. Readers also shared how the book had empowered them in discovering who they really are and in choosing energy medicine for their physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual health issues. Some wrote to me about how the book had inspired them to reach out and help others. I was gratified to hear that the book was fulfilling the intentions I had set for it. But the energy of the helpful desires of some readers did concern me. While many readers bought multiple copies to give as no-strings-attached gifts to family and friends, others seemed to be using the book as a means to apply pressure to friends and family who had not yet experienced an awakening in consciousness, or were actually going in the opposite direction and becoming more unconscious. One woman contacted me, deeply concerned about her husband. He was experiencing nightmares and rage spells after traumatic experiences as a soldier in Iraq. The woman conveyed that her husband was very reluctant to obtain help on his own, and how desperate she was for him to receive energy healing therapy. "Perhaps I could tell him it's a massage," she said. "That will get him in the door without knowing what it really is." I felt a lot of compassion for those who have a strong desire to help others. As we learn and evolve, we naturally want to help others do the same. But I also know that you can't trick, fix, convert, or coerce someone into changing their life and healing the energetic disruptions that are causing their negative beliefs, emotions, and health issues. They have to be willing to consider a different approach. In fact, these forceful approaches toward others and ourselves to create change only add to fear and resistance. Everyone has their own path for their life. Each of us has a path to follow that prepares us for awakening in our own timetable, if we choose to. Even choices that don't turn out as we hoped can ultimately contribute to our growth. I recognized that these readers needed more information in healing victim consciousness, the state of energy when viewing the outside world as the cause of misery. They had shifted from victim to rescuer on the model of human interaction developed by psychotherapist Stephen Cartman. Cartman's model is also referred to as the drama triangle. When we have been wounded, we can get stuck in the drama triangle, forever living through the characters of victim, persecutor, and rescuer. But there is another way, which we will discuss in more detail later. And then there were readers who contacted me who had devoured the book cover to cover, some reading it multiple times, assimilating the knowledge, applied it to their lives with positive results, and were ready for more. As they awakened, they recognized the areas of their lives where they still were in their wounds. Although they had evolved in some areas, they felt lost in others. They wanted to know more about how to transform their health, their relationships, their careers, and their lives. The truth is, like those readers, I was ready for more too. I was ready for the next shift in this journey of life. The shift. In The Other Medicine That Really Works, I shared my story of healing from cancer, infertility, chronic fatigue syndrome, depression, anxiety, childhood sexual abuse, and attachment issues through the use of energy medicine. The healing occurred on all levels, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, and was accompanied by a dramatic shift in consciousness. My life as I knew it, the things I believed about myself as a victim unworthy of love and acceptance, it all cracked apart as I began to wake up. During this time of awakening, I was working as a clinical nurse, but I was in conflict and frustrated on a daily basis in a pill-oriented, task-centered, forceful, materialistic work environment. I was ready for a new way of thinking and being. I wanted to connect with something greater than substance. This shift in my life was one from the material world to the spiritual world, from doing to being. This internal shift translated into a career change from Western medicine to energy medicine, and from clinical nurse to holistic nurse and traditional naturopath. On the other side of this transformational process, my personal life was filled with happiness and contentment. My health was wonderful, and my work life was brimming with satisfaction and fulfillment as I facilitated and witnessed the transformation of clients in my energy healing practice. But 20 years after my first cracking open experience, I was plunged into another. With the release of my first published book, the illusion that I am a shy, reclusive person incapable of a public life came to the forefront. In complete contrast to my personal life and work life, my public life was characterized by fear, frustration, conflict, disappointment, and shame. I felt invisible. I was very aware of why I felt so invisible. Negative beliefs about public vulnerability that were the result of childhood trauma. But despite this awareness, I was having difficulty making this next shift in my life to expand beyond my comfort zone and help people on a bigger scale, my life's mission. In the middle of this anguish, I turned to what has always helped, writing. As I began to write what would become my second published book, the book you are now reading, movement started happening in my life almost immediately, with the intention of discovering the reasons why I had been in conflict from the day The Other Medicine That Really Works was published. Answers came spontaneously. One after another, experiences began occurring on a regular basis that brought information and dramatic insights. New clients arrived with situations that provided more pieces of the puzzle. A series of synchronistic and serendipitous experiences guided me as if I were on some great adventure. Even though I had reset the course of my life 20 years ago, from clinical nurse to transformational entrepreneur, another course correction was needed. I will be revealing the experiences, insights, and answers I received as we go through this book together.